In the 1990s, Neil looked to a drumming legend, a drumming teacher, Freddie Gruber from New York City, for inspiration, and it kind of helped him reinvent to a certain degree his playing. He has said, have you guys looked to anyone that has perhaps had that kind of influence and impact on you and your playing? Whether it's been subtle or obvious, like Neil?
Well, no, I certainly haven't. It's not something that I would look for. I think there's always room for improvement, and it's a self improvement. I think that you apply at the end of the day. I think that I tend to be more of a spontaneous player, and I'm quite happy with that. I don't feel I need to learn any other technique or improve on what my style is, if you know what I mean.
But you took classical lessons.
Yeah, but I was 17 years old at the time, and I had an interest in it, and I wanted to develop a certain type of skill. But I always loved that kind of guitar playing. But at this point, I don't think I would go to, someone like Freddie to learn how to play jazz or to have a different technique or a different picking technique. It doesn't apply to the way I think about guitar playing, about my instrument.
Yeah, I'd say that's similar for me. I mean, I listen to other bass players, and of course, as Alex does, I'm sure, you're influenced by what
Sure.
you hear and by the way they're playing, the ideas that are alive in those songs. But it's pretty gutsy to say you want to reinvent your playing style. But Neil's always been torn between rock and jazz anyway, so it's kind of a natural search that he went on to do a different thing with his hands and the way he plays the drums. But I think Alex and I are more kind of pure rockers, and we're not so interested in that, although there were times when I took piano lessons and I was hanging out with different bass players that inspired me, like Jeff Berlin, who is always inspiring, and it did influence my playing, there's no question, but I didn't sit down and take lessons from the guy, and I'm not sure that I would do that with any one person now, but you never know. We're still young.
Things rub off.
I think with drumming too, it's very rudimentary and it's very mechanical. I mean, it can be also very creative, certainly, but that's really the basis of it. And if you can learn to play in a different style where it's more economical or more efficient or whatever it is to achieve that sort of goal, then it makes sense for a drummer to kind of broaden their view and see what other styles they can incorporate in their general playing.
Yeah, and it changed the way he grooves. He grooves in a different way now. He has a flexibility, and that changes the way I, as a bass player, have to relate to him. So that forced me into a different direction. But I would say, for example, when we were on tour with Primus, I loved Les Claypool's attitude to the instrument. It was very different. He wasn't a guy who was running up and down the neck like most jazz guys. He was playing this rhythmic, this kind of visceral approach. And it did really affect me, and I'd started to breathe some of that in and apply it to the way I play. So the musicians you come in contact with that you respect invariably will affect the way you play at some point, whether it's a tiny amount or a larger amount. So you're always learning from people. It's not to say that we don't learn from people. We certainly do, but we've never sat down and had that formal, okay, let's reinvent myself.
I did that with my golf swing, and man, it was the worst thing I could have done.
Blew it.
Starting over. Oh, just keep the crappy swing you got.
A walk perfectly wasted, somebody once said.
Yeah.
You know what I marvel at is kids, 4, 5, 6. I saw a 6-year-old recently who sat in front of the television and note for note in the advanced level, I don't know if it was Guitar Hero or Rock Band, but it's on both, did YYZ, or YYZ for our American friends. Note for note. How could a kid 6-year-old do that? And have you tried it?
Yeah. Well, we couldn't play. We're terrible at Guitar Hero and Rock Band. But
it's hard enough playing the song with real instruments.
Yeah. But I see that on YouTube all the time. People send me clips of some 11-year-old girl just wailing on the drums or playing keyboards. Or there's that one clip that's out there about this girl playing YYZ on keyboards, which is amazing. She's doing all the footwork.
Right, yeah.
That's awesome. That blows my mind. And I have young kids come up to me all the time, and younger than I would expect to be listening to our music, and they're really interested in our music. And that's a big part of our new audience, are youngsters that want to learn to play, and that's awesome because that's what we were like.
I think more than anyone, more than any band that is, rock band, when you go to a Rush show and peer out into the audience or look around you as a fan, there's more father and son pairings than any concert I'd ever been to.
Yeah.
You notice that when you're
Father
out
and
there.
daughters,
Absolutely.
too.
And father and daughters.
Lots of air drumming. Lots of female drummers out there now. I don't see so many female bass players. Got to do something about
It's
it.
about to change.
Yeah.
You met Jimmy Page, one of your musical heroes, I trust. How did he strike you in person, beyond the obvious, the music?
He was very engaging. He was very sweet. Geddy had met Robert Plant on a trip to Morocco earlier that year, and they exchanged numbers. And Robert mentioned at the time that they were planning on coming to Toronto with Page Plant later in the summer, and gave Geddy a call when he was coming to town and arranged for us to come down. So we went down, and they'd spent some time together, so they got back into their conversations about travel and family and those sort of things. And then Jimmy came in and sat down with us, and he talked a bit and made a couple of jokes, and it just, you meet somebody that you look up to and admire, and they are just a regular person, and you just fall in love with them for that fact. So I have to say that it was really, really exciting for me to meet him. He was such a huge influence on me growing up as a guitarist and as a musician. And to just meet the guy and see that he was sort of a regular guy like this guy here,
I'm not
it was
regular.
really, really nice.
Nothing regular about me.
They have something for that.
I'm irregular.
Well, I didn't want to get into that part.
Neil is West Coast U.S. You still are East. And unlike so many expat Canadians, you've chosen to keep a residence, I trust a primary residence in Canada. Why?
I like it here.
Yeah.
I like Canada. It's a great place to raise children. It's a frustrating place to be a wine lover, but we won't get into that. There's a lot of, we have family here still. My mom's still here. I spend so much time away. It's nice to come home to a place that is home.
Yeah.
And where you can see your family and you can see your friends. And that's, I think, important to keeping you sane. And when you have this kind of lifestyle, when you have this kind of job that takes you away for such long periods of time, keeps you from entering the floating world, which at some point when I think I slow down touring and working with this band, if that day ever is going to come, then obviously I will be restless and I will spend more time abroad. But for the moment, I like to touch home plate. It's a healthy thing.
Same with you, Alex. The roots are
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely, it's coming home. It's grounding. We had families when we were young. We've been in relationships for a long time. Coming back to all of that is very grounding, and it really keeps your head straight, I think. And for me, there's nothing that I feel I'm lacking here. I can take trips around the world and visit places and do all of that stuff, but always coming back here always feels like home, and I don't think I'd really want to live anywhere else.
One of the funniest guy movies in recent times, 2009, I Love You Man, immortalized the expression slapping the bass and featured you guys. Did you love the movie, and how was the experience being in it?
Slapping the bass.
I can't do it like that.
Say it right, like a leprechaun.
Yeah, what a moment in the film.
That was really so much fun for us. When we first got asked to do it, we were skeptical because, we went through a period where we just said no to everything. You want to do this TV show? Nah. And this came along at a period where we decided to be more open. And we read the script and we saw how prominently we were featured in it, and the director was making such a passionate plea for us to be involved that we couldn't say no, really. It was just too much of a love letter to Rush to say no. And the director is such a nice man. And I remember he told us that when he was negotiating with DreamWorks, and they said, well, who's your number 2 band if Rush won't do it, because they don't do this kind of thing. And he said, there is no number 2 band. This has to be done, and it has to be done with Rush. So I felt really good for him that he was happy with the end result. And it was great fun to be on the set and to watch these actors working.
The cast are great too.
Yeah, such nice people. They treated us so well. It was very sweet.
Yeah.
It's a must-see movie, clearly.